The reel appeared among the rolls of matte vinyl and the adhesive strips for marked-down prices, where it had absolutely no right to be. It was green, but not paint green, and not fruit stand awning green. It was the green of a leaf freshly washed. Vera Marín found it while opening her sign painting stall in the market, before the fishmongers had fully lifted their shutters and before the fruit shops had switched on their scales. She picked it up with 2 fingers, thinking some decorator must have left it there, and the reel answered with a gentle tug, like a small dog recognizing its street. Vera slipped it into her yellow bag so she could ask later who it belonged to. She did not make it 3 steps outside the market. The moment she set foot on the sidewalk, the ribbon sprang out of the bag, landed on a crack between 2 paving stones, and put down a tiny root, white as a sewing thread. Then it began to unroll toward the avenue, slowly, but with absolute determination. "Oh no," said Vera, looking left and right. "I have deliveries today." The ribbon did not argue. It stretched itself a handspan, went still, and produced a little leaf the size of a lentil. The leaf trembled toward the street. Vera Marín was a market sign painter, the kind with firm lettering and a practical hand. She wore an apron with pockets, a pencil tucked behind her ear, and carried a list of orders for the morning. The most urgent one was a large sign for the old tram shed, halfway converted into neighborhood workshops. She had to deliver it before noon. She looked at her watch. She looked at the ribbon. The ribbon put another root into the crack, and from there sprang a tiny clover, so round and so cheeky that Vera crouched down to touch it. "Fine," she murmured. 5 minutes. But if you turn out to be fertilizer advertising, I'm warning you, I charge by the hour." When Vera took 1 step, the ribbon moved forward. When she took another, the ribbon slid along the sidewalk with a soft sound, fsh, like tissue paper brushing against grass. It did not stick to the ground, it settled there. In the seams between the paving stones, it left little green dots, discrete shoots, leaves so small no one could trip over them. The city had gray stitches, and the ribbon was embroidering them. Vera tried to stop it with her hand. The ribbon shrank back at once, and the nearest clover folded its leaves like an offended umbrella. "Sorry," said Vera, because a person does not always know the correct manners with a plant ribbon. She let go of the edge. The ribbon stretched out again. Vera tried walking once more, at a regular pace, neither fast nor slow. Then the reel inside the bag let out a green tongue like a house-trained dragon. At the market door, Tomas, the egg seller, was setting out a chalkboard where Vera had written "free-range dozen" the day before. He saw her pass with the living ribbon snaking around her feet and raised one eyebrow. "Vera, your decoration is getting away." "It's in testing," she replied, without stopping. "Well, tell it that if it passes my stall, it can fix my basil pot. Poor thing is carrying a deep sadness." The ribbon, as if it had understood, left a row of aromatic shoots along the edge of an empty tree pit. They did not smell exactly like basil, but like something between lemon and toasted bread. Tomas opened his mouth, closed it, and then did the most reasonable thing in the face of an early morning marvel. He took out his phone to snap a photo. "Don't scare it," said Vera. "The ribbon or the breakfast complex basil?" "Both." The tram avenue opened ahead, the rails shining in the sun. The ribbon wanted to cross toward the median, but a tram passed by with its polite little bell and windows full of half-awake people. The green tip tested the asphalt, drew back, and searched for a line of pale paving stones beside the track. Vera understood the first rule. This was not about running, and not about dragging it. If she walked with care, the ribbon found safe gaps. If she rushed, it shrank. She breathed, adjusted her pace, and moved forward parallel to the rails. The ribbon ran along the edge of the median, leaving behind low, tight, almost flat moss. Where there was a cigarette butt, it went around it with great dignity. Where a grate trembled as the tram passed, it produced yellow flowers so tiny they looked like exclamation points. A child inside the tram pressed his nose to the glass and waved. Vera, who was not the sort of woman to wave at unknown audiences while a plant shaped like a ribbon directed her mourning, lifted her hand anyway. The child applauded. The ribbon sped up a little. Vera, infected by it, took 2 quick steps. Instantly, the reel snapped shut on itself with a soft click, and the green tip hid beside her shoe. All right, said Vera. No racing. She took out her carpenter's pencil and tapped it gently against her thumb. Tap, tap, tap. Step, step, step. The ribbon came out again, satisfied. Tap, tap, fsh. Tap, tap, fsh. That rhythm had something of a market opening and a city stretching itself awake. When they reached a plaza with short shade, the ribbon veered toward 3 empty tree pits. Vera followed it, keeping the beat. A woman with bags of bread stopped to look. A delivery worker braked his handcart. 2 retired men interrupted an important argument about whether a cloud looked more like a boat or a croquette. In the first tree pit, a circle of broad, fresh leaves sprouted. In the second, slender stems appeared, carrying white flowers. In the third, the ribbon hesitated. It stretched toward the soil, then toward the thin shade of a scrawny tree, and then dipped back down. What is it now? Asked Vera. She looked more closely. That tree pit would sit in full sun for hours. The ribbon did not want to plant just for the sake of planting. It wanted to connect places that could be cared for. Vera took off her apron and held it up like a little canvas sail. It's good canvas, she told the ribbon. Don't give me that demanding fern face. One of the retired men set his straw hat on the edge of the tree pit. The woman with the bread opened a paper bag like a screen. The delivery worker added a clean piece of cardboard. Together, they built a shade that was ridiculous and sufficient. Then the ribbon unrolled in a perfect circle. Low plants rose from the tree pit with silvery leaves as if they were storing light for later. The whole plaza released a murmur of approval. I have always said this spot needed a little silver, declared the retired man on the croquette side. You've been saying that for 10 seconds, answered the other, but with great conviction. Vera smiled and put her apron back on. The ribbon responded to her step, yes, but also to the attention gathering around it. A hat, a bread bag, a clean piece of cardboard. Small helps, exactly the right size to keep the city from looking the other way. Leaving the plaza, the ribbon chose a narrow street of workshops, shoemaker, bicycles, picture frames, shutters halfway up. It was a street of busy hands. The ribbon moved along the edge where the sidewalk kissed the facades. In front of the shoemakers, it covered a crack with tough leaves like tiny tongues. Beside the bicycle workshop, tendrils curled around an old metal fence without invading it, forming perfect spirals. Nabil came out of the workshop, hands stained with grease and a wrench in his pocket. Vera, have you changed professions? I still don't know. Nabil crouched beside the tendrils. 0 drills, 0 zip ties. Elegant. Don't give it budget ideas. The ribbon, perhaps flattered, made an orange flower sprout the size of a button. Nabil burst out laughing. The complication came 3 doorways later. He had a long ruler, a squeegee, and the frown of someone who had discovered that air bubbles were his personal enemies. When he saw the living ribbon, his face lit up. Perfect! An organic touch! He took out a large pair of scissors and leaned toward the ribbon. The reaction was immediate. The ribbon shrank all the way back to the reel, deeply offended. The tendrils folded their leaves. The orange flower closed like a real button. "Stop," said Vera. The man froze, scissors in the air. "It was only a little piece, for the window. I'd pay, of course." "You don't cut something that is walking." The sentence came out before she could think it through. She liked it. It was absurd and exact. Nabil added, "Besides, you can tell it has an agenda." The man lowered the scissors, embarrassed. "Sorry, it's just that I've spent 2 hours trying to make this vinyl look alive." Vera looked at his crooked letters, the bubbles trapped beneath the sheet, and the clean glass waiting for something better. From her bag she pulled out an ordinary scrap of green vinyl, her own kind, and her small knife. She cut out a wavy line with 3 hand-drawn leaves. "Stick this under the letters," she told him, "and don't chase the plant." The man accepted the scrap as if it were a diplomatic agreement. The ribbon, seeing the scissors put away, peeked out again. It passed in front of the shop and left a single thin shoot with 2 leaves beside the door. Nothing spectacular. A greeting, not a window display. Vera kept walking. At first, she had followed the ribbon the way a person follows a problem. Now she followed it the way a person holds a conversation. If she got distracted by her watch, the ribbon lost confidence. If she walked clearly, attentive to the ground and to the people, the ribbon found the precise edge where a leaf could do something useful. The workshop street opened out behind some offices, beside the old tram shed. The neighborhood called it the depot, though no tram had slept there in years. Part of the building was already a workshop hall. Another part still had fences, temporary doors, and that feeling of a place waiting for a decision. Vera looked at her watch. She was not as late as she had feared. The ribbon had led her almost in the same direction as her delivery. "So it was this way," she said. The ribbon neither confirmed nor denied it. It continued toward a concrete island between 2 stretches of sidewalk that never quite understood each other. It was not large, but it was stubbornly gray. It had high curbs, a lamppost, 3 gum stains, a crooked sign, and nothing that invited anyone to cross it except habit. The ribbon stopped at the edge. Vera took a step. Nothing. She tried the pencil rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Nothing. She studied the concrete. Almost no cracks, no visible soil, no empty tree pits. Only a thin line beside the curb where dust, lost seeds, and the patience of small things had gathered. "You can't plant there," she whispered. The ribbon lifted its tip, almost indignant. "Fine. I don't know if you can plant there." Tomas appeared too, carrying an empty egg box full of paper cups, along with the woman with the bread, the 2 retired men, and the man from the new shop with his scissors packed at the bottom of a backpack as proof of good behavior. They were not a crowd. They were something better, a collection of people who had already seen enough not to want to miss the ending. "It needs soil," said Nabil. "Or a crack with aspirations," said the retired man on the boat side. Vera looked at her folder. Inside was the white panel for the depot sign, pedestrian access, not yet painted. She also had masking tape, a squeegee, rags, acrylics, and a tin of primer. She was a sign painter. Her trade was turning difficult surfaces into clear messages. "It doesn't need us to break anything," she said slowly. "It needs an edge to start from." She asked Nabil for the flattest wrench, not to strike with, but to carefully scrape the compacted soil beside the curb. Tomas distributed a little soil from a nearby planter into the cups, with permission arranged at full volume by the woman with the bread. The man from the shop contributed an unopened bottle of water. The retired men debated for 20 seconds about the best direction for future shade, and then accepted that the lamppost was already doing what it could. Vera walked around the island, slowly. Tap, tap, tap. She did not pull the ribbon. She did not ask it for large miracles. She only held the pace. The ribbon advanced 1 centimeter, then another. It touched the line of dust by the curb, brushed the soil from the cups, drank a drop of water, and began to unroll with serene delight. It did not cover the island in jungle. It did not lift the concrete or hide the crooked sign. It did something finer. It traced a green loop around the lamppost, ran down one edge, crossed an almost invisible seam, circled the gum stains with absolute diplomacy, and continued until it connected with the depot sidewalk. There, beside an old side door, it put down 3 tiny roots. From the ground sprang a line of low plants with oval leaves and small cream-colored flowers. The line did not block the way, it drew it. Then Vera saw the whole thing. The ribbon had not been looking for a place, it had been creating a path. From the market door, along the tram avenue, through the plaza, the workshop street, and the gray island, the chutes formed a continuous line of microgardens. Not an impossible fantasy to maintain, but a corridor made of living mens, cracks put to use, tree pits awakened, edges softened, small shared patches of shade. A green shortcut where before there had only been loose pieces of city. The reel made one last turn inside Vera's bag. The ribbon closed itself into a perfect loop around the lamppost. In the center appeared a leaf larger than the others, shiny and smooth, shaped like a label. Across it, the veins drew clumsy but readable letters. Vera crouched down. It said, "This way." Tomas burst out laughing. "As signs go, that's not bad." "It needs more contrast," said Vera automatically. Everyone laughed. Even the ribbons seemed to laugh a little, because the cream flowers trembled without wind. Just then, Ines came out of the depot, the coordinator of the neighborhood workshops, carrying a bunch of keys and wearing the face of a person who had spent all morning looking for a simple solution. "I was about to call you," she said. "We didn't know how to mark the entrance. The main door is under construction and the side one is hidden. Did you bring the sign?" Vera opened the folder and looked at the white panel. Pedestrian access was correct, but it felt too small for what had just happened. She took out the wide brush, the pot of green paint, and the pencil. Underneath, she added a curved arrow, not a straight one, because this path did not order anyone around. It invited. Beside the arrow, she painted 3 simple leaves, copied from the first ones that had appeared near the market. While the paint dried, the living ribbon extended a tiny tip to the base of the panel and left a miniature shoot there, like a signature. "This is better than a temporary entrance," said Ines. "It feels like a welcome." "A welcome with personality," said Nabil, "and it doesn't allow scissors." The man from the shop raised both hands. "Message received." They hung the sign on the fence. The first person to use it was a girl with a cloth backpack who was looking for the ceramics workshop. She followed the arrow, stepped onto the island with curiosity, and smiled when she saw the small flowers. Then a delivery rider passed through and discovered that this way saved him an entire loop around the block. Then 2 children counted the shoots as if they were breadcrumbs from a story. Vera stayed beside the lamppost, the reel now light in her bag. It did not seem empty. It seemed rested. Tomas offered her one of the leftover paper cups. At the bottom was a little soil and a newly born round leaf, perhaps fallen from the ribbon, perhaps there by choice. "For your stall," he said, "in case the decoration wants to visit the eggs." Vera looked at the leaf with professional seriousness. "I'll have to make it a sign." "What will it say?" All of them were useful signs, but none of them quite rose to the occasion. From inside the bag, the reel went fsssh, very softly, as if it approved of the phrase. And on the other side of the island, where the arrow on the sign pointed toward the depot, a new person chose the green shortcut, without knowing that morning they had not found it. They had been the first to try it.